Africa's push towards a fully digital payments ecosystem is accelerating, with new data showing strong progress, but also major gaps that still need urgent attention. On Tuesday, the AfricaNenda Foundation released the fourth edition of its flagship State of Inclusive Instant Payment Systems report, produced in partnership with the Central Bank of Eswatini, the World Bank, and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. Speaking at the launch, AfricaNenda's Deputy CEO, Sabine Mensah, said that instant digital payment platforms are reshaping how Africans send and receive money, making transactions faster, safer, and more affordable, and opening new pathways for financial inclusion across the continent. Channel Africa's economics reporter, Innocent Semosa, is in Eswatini for the launch, and he joins us now. Hello, hello, Innocent, are you there?
Yes, a very good morning to you, Peter, and our listeners around the world. It's good to be with you, colleague.
All right, so set the scene for us. So what stood out for you at this launch of this SIIPS 2025 report?
Yeah, so what stood out for me, Peter, over and above, is the commitment from, private sector to really push the issues around growing the growth of instant payment systems across the continent. But the report really speaks about, the significant progress in the adoption of real-time payment systems across across African countries, with more nations, Peter, really building on new platforms. But over and above, I think it really addresses the issues around the focus on financial inclusion and the emphasis on how instant payments are helping, including small and medium enterprises, women in rural communities, and also informal financial ecosystems. So the fact that someone can send money to someone in Eswatini can send money to Kenya in real time, instant payment. It's a really step in the right direction when you're looking at the issues around digital payment in the continent. But also, Peter, it goes without saying again that it does seem as though the Eswatini digital payment drive is making steps in the right direction again. Because the central bank yesterday reaffirmed its commitment, Peter, in really balancing innovation with consumer protection and also the issues around data security. So on the sideline of that event, also I had an interview with the head of IT at the Central Bank of Eswatini, who was saying that they are indeed working, to strike a balance between driving innovation in digital payments and also ensuring strong, consumer protection and data security. So it does seem as though we're making progress as the African continent, but they agree and they accept that we still have a long way to go, but these are steps in the right direction, Peter.
All right, I think you've partly answered my next question, actually. And Eswatini hosting this year's launch. The country seems to be positioning itself within the digital payments landscape. What sort of initiatives are the authorities prioritizing?
Yeah, so most of them really, they are prioritizing the support for small and medium enterprises in the informal sector, and the efforts that are underway to really integrate small and medium enterprises, because they also talk about the challenge of cyber security and cyber crimes. But the emphasis here, Peter, is that they've been really pushing on their regulatory readiness, because the country is indeed updating its payment frameworks to, I guess, to really align with global standards and enable this seamless cross-border transactions that I just mentioned. And also, in fact, I asked the question if whether or not there is a method or they calibrate a mechanism for entrepreneurs who want to use these services, because it can be that entrepreneurs are paying hefty duties when they have to access these digital payments. And here we're talking about small and medium enterprises. So it does seem as though there's commitment in that, and the fact that there's these public-private partnerships. I mean, Eswatini is collaborating with partners like AfricaNenda, which is big in in West and East Africa, and the World Bank as well, and the UNECA, to really strengthen these issues around Eastern payment ecosystem. So it does seem as though there's commitment from the Eswatini government, and again, at the center of this whole thing is what captured my attention, Peter, is the regulatory readiness, because that's where there's a bit of hurdle when it comes to digital payments, when it comes to digital payments and the regulatory aspect of it, Peter.
So, with this rapidly expanding digital payments platforms, I guess there must be discussions about cybersecurity and consumer protection playing out.
Yeah, indeed, Peter. That's a big talking point. There's a need for them to, because in as much as they are advancing, the criminals also are not relaxing. They are also, putting new ways to really maneuver these systems. In fact, yesterday, I was at the restaurant and I wanted to purchase something, and I was very much skeptical to use the hotel's Wi-Fi to go into my bank account and transact money, simply because it's you can't trust the public Wi-Fi for that matter. So in fact, there's a need for them to really be ahead of time, because also criminals are not they are not relaxing, but also this will help them to identify these gaps and highlight where access to digital payment remains limited, and especially to, as I've indicated, Peter, women, youth, and rural communities. So this will also help to guide issues around policies and investment. It will help also governments to, again, going back to the regulatory frameworks, for development partners to design policies, or also allocate resources that make payment more inclusive and more easier for entrepreneurs and for citizens, Peter.
And perhaps lastly, what can we expect next? Are there any key recommendations or next steps that policymakers are being urged to take?
Yeah, in fact, the report is still in. It's more like an embargo, Peter. They were not allowed to actually share with. I was just giving you the snippets of what the report has, but the launch is actually this morning. They'll be launching that report with the governor of Eswatini Central Bank, and also the leaders of Nanda AfricaNenda Foundation, which of course, Peter, in fact, I asked them yesterday, who's funding you? Apparently they are funded by, one of the big funders is the Gates Foundation. So also, we don't know, we've not been told as journalists whether or not there will be someone from the World Bank to really represent the World Bank there. But it does seem as though it's going to be a field day today. We will indeed be giving you coverage in terms of what's happening with the issues around digital payments in not only in the SADC region, but on the African continent as a whole, Peter.
Innocent, we certainly look forward to hearing from you a little bit later on today's launch. But thanks so much indeed for the preview that you've been able to give us, and safe travels back home.
Thank you so much, colleague. Thank you.
That's our economics reporter, Innocent Semosa, in Eswatini, looking at a big report on digital payments that's being launched today. The SIIPS Report is called, and we'll have more for you during the course of the day, particularly on our business program a little bit later on. Okay, it's 7:30, which means it's time for your news headlines. Here's Jualani Tulo Nwebe.
SABC